They thought humanity would kneel. They thought we would crumble. Millions fell, but one woman refused to bow, and her strike would echo across the stars. Hit that subscribe button and witness how Earth's courage shattered a galactic empire.
They thought humanity would bend, thought we would beg, thought our planet's screams would echo unanswered across the void. Millions were extinguished in the cold efficiency of the Galactic Empire's strike, cities reduced to ash, skies painted with fire, oceans boiling under weapons that defied comprehension. Entire continents trembled as the Empire's fleet hung in Earth's orbit, silent and omnipotent, radiating the arrogance of invincibility. Humanity had felt safe, proud of its achievements, its civilizations thriving under fragile peace, but that illusion shattered in moments. Families vanished, governments collapsed, and yet, amid the ruin, one figure stood unshaken, unyielding, and burning with a resolve that no bomb, no fleet, no empire could extinguish. She was Earth's woman Diplomat, the embodiment of every whispered hope humanity had clung to in dark nights, and in her mind, the seeds of vengeance took root. From the shattered capitals to the smoldering suburbs, humanity mourned, screamed, and despaired. Yet in that collective anguish, a quiet defiance began to grow, fragile as a sapling through cracked concrete, yet persistent. The Empire had believed they were eliminating a threat, but they had only forged the fire that would burn across galaxies. In council chambers now reduced to echoes, military leaders, scientists, and strategists convened via secure transmissions, their voices taut with urgency. Even fragmented communication channels carried messages of shock turning into determination. "We cannot respond as they expect," the diplomat said, her voice steady, resonant across every frequency she could command. "We cannot fight them on their terms. Humanity has survived worse, endured the impossible, and tonight we begin our answer." Her mind raced, assessing data flooding from surviving satellites, rogue intelligence networks, and underground observation posts. The Empire was precise, unfeeling, relentless, but not infallible. Their strikes were calculated, predictable in certain patterns. They underestimated Earth's ingenuity, humanity's capacity for improvisation and adaptation. Every bomb dropped, every fleet unleashed, revealed a weakness, a rhythm, a flaw, a chance. As she scrolled through casualty reports and intercepted Imperial communications, her eyes burned with cold calculation, not mere anger. This was more than revenge. This was a lesson, a declaration to the galaxy that humanity could not be silenced. Each destroyed city, each lost life, only intensified the focus in her mind. The Empire had assumed fear would dominate. It had not. It had forged resolve. Across continents, people whispered her name, a beacon in the rubble, a symbol of relentless courage. News channels hacked by insurgents carried her messages, concise and piercing: "We endure. We strike. We will rise." In makeshift shelters, parents shielded children, hiding tears while teaching them to survive, to observe, to learn. Soldiers scavenged weapons and knowledge from wrecked laboratories, piecing together defensive tactics from debris. The air was thick with smoke, fear, and grief, yet within it, a pulse of hope throbbed steadily. Humanity's response was not yet visible to the Empire, but it was brewing, meticulous, patient, and lethal. The diplomat understood the weight of leadership, the delicate balance of patience and aggression. Every word she transmitted, every order she issued, carried the weight of a world that had nearly been erased, yet refused to disappear. The Empire had expected panic. They received strategy. They had anticipated submission. They encountered calculation. From the ashes of New York to the ruins of Shanghai, from the deserts of Africa to the frozen North, humans began organizing, coordinating across fragmented networks. Each act, each resource salvaged, each mind brought into the fold added to a hidden force swelling quietly beneath the Empire's notice. The diplomat did not merely command. She orchestrated, weaving intelligence, psychology, and foresight into a plan that no alien fleet could anticipate. The Empire's arrogance blinded them. They could not imagine that humans, scattered and wounded, could form a response more lethal than their first strike. And yet, every calculation she made, every encrypted message she sent, was a step toward justice, toward vengeance, toward proving that humanity's spirit could never be crushed. In her private moments, she allowed herself glimpses of grief, not for the millions lost, but for the Empire's ignorance. They had thought death could silence the most indomitable species in the galaxy. They had not accounted for resilience, for imagination, for the audacity of hope. Humanity's retaliatory pulse was already forming, subtle but unstoppable, like a storm gathering behind unseen clouds. In classrooms, bunkers, laboratories, and shipyards, humans were waking, learning to turn scarcity into strategy, fear into fuel. And at the center of it all, the Diplomat remained unwavering, a calm force among chaos, seeing the threads others missed, turning despair into purpose, and promising the Empire a reckoning they would never see coming until it was too late. Her voice, steady and resolute, cut through the void like a blade. "We will not only survive," she broadcast, encoded across every possible channel. "We will return every strike. We will teach the galaxy the cost of underestimating Earth. Every death will be avenged. Every city rebuilt from the lessons learned. Humanity will not kneel. Humanity will rise." The words traveled faster than the Empire's fleets, reaching scattered survivors, emboldening the fearful, galvanizing the hidden forces of resistance. Every human who heard them carried a spark of rebellion, a fragment of fury, a shard of courage ready to ignite. The Diplomat understood that this moment, born from tragedy, was the first act of a story that would redefine the galaxy. The Empire may have believed they controlled the narrative, but humanity had learned a lesson the hard way, and their answer would be absolute, devastating, and unforgettable. Amid the ruins, amid the screams and the smoke, the first embers of Earth's retaliation sparked. No one could see it yet, no one could imagine the scale, but in quiet calculation, in disciplined planning, in the steady hand of a woman who refused to bow, humanity began to strike back. Millions had fallen, but the species had not. The planet had not. And the galaxy would soon learn that killing humans was a mistake far graver than the Empire could comprehend. The Diplomat's eyes shone with determination as she whispered, not to anyone, but to every living being who still clung to hope, "We begin now. We strike back. And we will be heard across the stars." Humanity had survived catastrophes before, but never on this scale. The Galactic Empire's strike had been swift, merciless, and devastating, yet in the quiet corners of the world, a plan was forming that would turn despair into unprecedented power. Earth's woman Diplomat, calm and resolute, understood that brute force alone would not win this war. She needed strategy, unpredictability, and the full depth of human ingenuity. Every shred of knowledge, every hidden weapon, every mind capable of thinking beyond conventional limits was gathered, forming a coalition of intellect and experience unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Empire had expected a panic-driven, fragmented response. Instead, they would encounter precision, patience, and cunning. Humanity's retaliation would not be a blind fury. It would be calculated, adaptive, and unavoidable. In hidden laboratories, scattered across continents and beneath mountains, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly. Weapons that had been considered theoretical, gravity manipulation devices, energy shields, advanced stealth systems, were accelerated from prototypes to operational readiness. Humans took advantage of the Empire's overconfidence, studying every recorded strike to anticipate their next moves. Artificial intelligence networks, previously restricted to civilian use, were repurposed to simulate entire fleets of the enemy, testing scenarios and finding weaknesses invisible to any alien commander. Every calculation, every algorithm, every innovation was meticulously coordinated, creating a web of capability that stretched from the Arctic to the Antarctic. The Diplomat oversaw the operation like a chess master, ensuring that each human mind, each resource, was aligned with a singular goal: survival, retaliation, and victory. The Empire had relied on predictability, assuming that humans would respond emotionally, rashly, and ineffectively. They did not realize that humanity's greatest strength was its capacity to adapt, to think beyond imposed constraints, and to use adversity as a catalyst for innovation. Ships long thought incapable of interstellar combat were retrofitted with cloaking technologies and kinetic disruptors. Networks of satellites were reprogrammed to act as both surveillance and defensive arrays, able to strike with surgical precision while remaining undetectable. Humans created weapons that mirrored the Empire's strengths, then enhanced them in ways the aliens could not have imagined, turning the tools of oppression into instruments of justice. The scale of preparation was staggering, yet every effort was invisible, untraceable, and meticulously synchronized to ensure that when humanity struck, it would do so with overwhelming effect. While armies and fleets were reorganized, the diplomat's personal focus remained on intelligence, timing, and psychological advantage. She knew the Empire's officers relied on fear and intimidation to maintain control, believing that the annihilation of millions would permanently crush morale. They had miscalculated. Every act of human ingenuity, every clever adaptation, became a counter-narrative, a demonstration that their dominance was not absolute. The Diplomat issued directives not only for military operations but for communications designed to inspire hope among survivors, rally resistance cells, and broadcast subtle warnings to the Empire that humanity was far from defeated. Every transmission, every encoded message, carried precision, purpose, and the silent promise that the first strike would be just the beginning of a campaign that would turn the galaxy's expectations upside down. Earth's remaining fleets, though smaller in number, became formidable in capability. Small, agile vessels were equipped with experimental engines that allowed rapid redeployment and near-instantaneous maneuvers, evading detection while targeting supply lines and command centers. Stealth units embedded within the remnants of civilian infrastructure could launch attacks the Empire could not predict. Humans understood that survival depended on asymmetric warfare, turning their apparent weakness into strategic advantage. The Diplomat insisted on coordination rather than brute confrontation, ensuring that every move was premeditated, every resource optimized, and every human life valued. Victory would not come from blind rage, but from intelligence, patience, and relentless execution. Psychological preparation was as vital as technological advancement. The Diplomat addressed scientists, engineers, and military leaders daily, instilling not fear, but determination. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, yet in those crucibles of loss, new resolve emerged. People trained relentlessly, not just for survival, but to understand the Empire's psychology, to predict behavior, and to manipulate perception. Humans learned to use the Empire's confidence against them, creating scenarios that suggested weakness while masking preparation. The Diplomat herself became a symbol of unyielding resolve, communicating strategy and reassurance simultaneously, reminding humanity that while millions had fallen, every action they now took would honor those lost and exact a cost the Empire could not endure. As preparations neared completion, simulations and practice strikes became increasingly complex. Humans conducted exercises in conditions that mirrored the Empire's most advanced weaponry, testing adaptability and endurance under extreme stress. The Diplomat monitored progress constantly, refining tactics, and ensuring that no weakness would compromise the first true retaliation. Every scientist, soldier, and civilian contributor understood the stakes. This was not merely a fight for survival, but a declaration to the galaxy that humanity could not be destroyed. The Empire had underestimated Earth's resilience, its creativity, and its moral determination. Humans had turned devastation into opportunity, converting grief into strategy, and chaos into order. The stage was set for the first act of humanity's counterstrike, and the Empire remained blissfully unaware of the storm that had begun to gather in silence. In the final hours of preparation, the Diplomat reviewed every component of the operation, ensuring alignment across continents, networks, and fleets. Her mind mapped scenarios across time and space, predicting enemy responses, contingencies, and countermeasures. Humanity's hidden arsenal was ready, concealed behind layers of misinformation, misdirection, and secrecy. Every device, every fleet, every human operative was poised to act with precision the Empire could not anticipate. What had begun as a desperate response to unimaginable loss had transformed into an unstoppable force, a testament to human creativity, courage, and unbreakable spirit. The first strike would not be a mere retaliation. It would be a message, a demonstration of what happens when an entire species refuses to bow to oppression. Humanity was awakening, and the galaxy would soon witness that our ingenuity was as lethal as it was unstoppable. The moment to act had arrived. Humanity's hidden arsenal, meticulously prepared and tested, moved with precision across the globe. Fleets once considered too small, too underpowered, now carried weapons and technology the Empire had never anticipated. Cloaked ships darted silently through space, energy pulses calibrated to bypass shields, and intelligence networks directing every strike with surgical accuracy. Humans did not rush blindly into battle. They executed strategy with discipline, patience, and a keen understanding of their enemy's psychology. The Galactic Empire believed they had annihilated humanity's ability to fight, yet every calculation, every maneuver, every pulse of energy from Earth was designed to shatter that assumption. The first strike was not just retaliation. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity, unpredictability, and relentless courage. From the command networks hidden across the planet, the woman diplomat coordinated every move. She did not merely give orders, she orchestrated, anticipating the Empire's responses before they were even considered. Every fleet position, every missile trajectory, every cloaking maneuver had been simulated, revised, and optimized countless times. The Empire had assumed they could dictate the tempo of the conflict, but humans controlled the battlefield with an elegance born from desperation and genius. As the first signals of action rippled across the void, humans on Earth and in orbit felt the same quiet thrill. The first blow had been struck, precise, unexpected, and devastating. Humanity had transformed loss into power, grief into strategy, and fear into resolve. The galaxy would never underestimate Earth again. The target of humanity's initial strike was not random. Imperial command structures, supply lines, and forward fleets had been mapped with painstaking detail, exposing vulnerabilities overlooked by arrogance. Humans exploited those flaws with ruthless efficiency, disabling critical systems while avoiding unnecessary casualties whenever possible. Every move was calculated to maximize impact and send a clear message. The Empire had overreached, and humanity would respond in kind. Explosions erupted across the void, flashes of fire and energy that illuminated the darkness, yet these were only the beginning. The Empire's complacency had left it blind to the precision, adaptability, and creativity of its adversary. Human ingenuity turned stealth into strength, technology into art, and vengeance into strategy. The first strike was not a chaotic storm. It was the calculated hand of a species that refused to be conquered. The Empire's response was immediate, but it was disorganized, fragmented, and reactive. They had assumed humans would scatter, hide, and plead, yet every action they attempted to suppress the retaliation only revealed another flaw in their assumptions. Cloaked vessels bypassed patrols, disabling communications and diverting attention, while covert teams disrupted logistical nodes, creating confusion and delay. The diplomat's voice guided the efforts with calm authority, coordinating attacks across continents and orbital stations, ensuring every human effort complemented the other. Even under the weight of previous devastation, humanity had learned to fight smarter, faster, and with ingenuity the Empire could not predict. Each successful strike compounded morale, both for humans and for those observing the unfolding events across the galaxy. Beyond tactical victories, the first strike carried a psychological weight. Humanity's retaliation was a declaration that they could endure the unimaginable and respond with force beyond expectation. It was not merely about destruction. It was about proving a point the Empire had refused to understand. Humans could not be subjugated, silenced, or broken. The woman diplomat's calculated approach ensured that every broadcast, every intercepted message, every recorded act of resistance communicated intelligence, resilience, and defiance. Civilians inspired by these actions began aiding efforts, repurposing remaining technology, sharing knowledge, and assisting in ways that multiplied the strike's impact. Humanity's unity, creativity, and resolve became an invisible weapon as potent as any missile or energy beam. The The scale of the operation was staggering. Humans coordinated thousands of tactical points simultaneously, striking targets with a precision that left the Empire scrambling. They manipulated enemy sensors, created illusions of vulnerability, and struck at critical points while remaining unseen. Every maneuver demonstrated a mastery of adaptation the Empire had dismissed. The first strike was not simply an attack, it was a proof of concept, showing that a species underestimated at every turn could reorganize, innovate, and dominate with intellect and courage. Every human involved understood the stakes. The Empire had killed millions, but humanity's retaliation would ensure that every life lost would have meaning in the reckoning to come. Even as the Empire attempted to regroup, humanity's strikes continued to compound. Energy grids, fleet coordination hubs, and critical weapon systems were disabled in rapid succession. Each success emboldened operators and strategists alike, reinforcing the notion that the impossible could be achieved through preparation, ingenuity, and willpower. Humans turned scarcity into advantage, using damaged infrastructure to create traps, turning predictable Empire routines into liabilities. The first strike was both devastating and instructive, a demonstration of what could be accomplished when a species refused to be defeated, even after suffering the greatest losses imaginable. The galaxy began to take notice, whispers spreading across distant systems about a race that refused annihilation. The woman diplomat observed every calculation, every strike, every adaptation in real time. She remained calm, analytical, yet every success added to the weight of purpose she carried. This first strike was the cornerstone of humanity's campaign, a message that death, destruction, and cruelty would not silence them. Humanity had turned grief into planning, chaos into strategy, and outrage into a coordinated, unstoppable response. The Empire had assumed victory. Humanity had assumed survival, intelligence, and dominance. By the end of the first strike, the Empire was forced to confront an inconvenient truth. Humans were not just capable of retaliation, they were capable of winning, of teaching a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Humanity's voice, silent in the beginning, now roared across the void, demanding acknowledgement, respect, and caution. The first act of retaliation concluded not with celebration, but with preparation for what was next. Humanity's first strike had been a statement, precise and brutal, yet it was only the beginning. Every system, every fleet, every human operative now understood that their ingenuity, courage, and resolve could overcome any odds. The Empire had underestimated them, and the consequences of that miscalculation would echo for decades. Humanity was awake, coordinated, and relentless. The woman diplomat, observing the aftermath, knew that the galaxy had just glimpsed a fraction of Earth's potential. The strike had set the stage for a war that would redefine what it meant to fight, to survive, and to triumph. Humanity had struck back, and the Empire would never forget the name of the species that refused to bow. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity's capacity for strategy and adaptation, and their shock quickly turned to rage. Imperial fleets, colossal in size and bristling with firepower, responded with unprecedented force, attempting to crush Earth once and for all. Every attack was precise, overwhelming, and brutal, designed to erase any trace of resistance. Cities still standing were targeted with orbital bombardments, energy cannons tore through infrastructure, and propaganda broadcasts aimed to intimidate survivors into submission. The Empire believed that sheer terror would break the human spirit. They did not realize that fear had already been transformed into something far more potent: determination. Every strike only strengthened humanity's resolve, fueling a counterforce that no weapon could suppress. Despite the overwhelming power of the Empire, humanity adapted. Civilian networks became command hubs, underground facilities turned into strategic centers, and every remaining scientist, soldier, and civilian operated with unified purpose. Communications were rerouted through secure satellites, allowing coordination across continents without detection. Engineers repaired and upgraded weaponry on the fly, transforming damaged technology into tools of resistance. Even in the face of annihilation, humans calculated, improvised, and acted with precision. Each attack by the Empire revealed vulnerabilities, and humanity exploited them immediately. The first wave of devastation, intended to demoralize, instead became a blueprint for survival and retaliation. Humans were learning, evolving, and growing stronger with every assault. The woman diplomat's presence remained central to humanity's strategy. Her broadcasts, encrypted yet widely disseminated, reached survivors and operatives across the globe, delivering not just orders, but inspiration. "We endure," her messages said. "We adapt, and we strike with precision. Humanity cannot be conquered by fear or destruction. Every act of aggression you commit will only hasten your defeat." These words became a rallying cry, uniting disparate groups into a cohesive resistance. Civilians and soldiers alike drew courage from her resolve, acting decisively even when resources were scarce and the odds insurmountable. Humanity's coordination and ingenuity, combined with the diplomat's leadership, created a network of resistance the Empire had not anticipated. Tactically, humans turned every attack into an opportunity. Damaged fleets became bait for ambushes, destroyed satellites provided debris for defensive arrays, and imperial calculations of predictable behavior were exploited with precision. Humans utilized guerrilla tactics on a galactic scale, striking swiftly, vanishing without a trace, and forcing the Empire to fight a battle of attrition they could not win. Every move was calculated, every risk evaluated, and every countermeasure designed to maximize impact while minimizing human loss. While the Empire relied on raw power, humanity relied on intellect, adaptability, and creativity, proving once again that survival depended not on numbers, but on strategy and resolve. Psychological warfare became a critical weapon. Humanity communicated their victories subtly, broadcasting intercepted imperial losses, sabotaged fleets, and human ingenuity to the farthest reaches of the Empire. Soldiers began to question their orders, officers doubted calculations, and fear crept into ranks that had previously considered themselves invincible. The Empire's attempt to dominate through intimidation was failing. Humans were not just surviving, they were teaching lessons in cunning, patience, and resilience. Every counterattack strengthened morale and eroded the illusion of imperial invulnerability. The galaxy began to witness a species that refused to be subjugated, a species that had transformed despair into decisive action and ingenuity into weaponry. Even as devastation rained from above, humanity never lost its focus on the larger objective. Cities rebuilt quickly, infrastructure repaired or repurposed, and intelligence networks expanded in real time to anticipate the Empire's next moves. The diplomat's calculations and predictions allowed humanity to preempt strikes, protect vital assets, and turn losses into tactical advantages. Every setback became an opportunity for adaptation, every failure a lesson for improvement. The Empire's aggression, meant to crush the human spirit, instead accelerated its evolution, turning scattered survivors into a highly coordinated, highly capable force ready to exploit any weakness. What had begun as survival had now evolved into dominance. By the end of the initial wave of imperial retaliation, humanity had not only endured but also demonstrated an unprecedented level of resilience and tactical brilliance. Imperial fleets, though massive and powerful, were slowed, disorganized, and forced into defensive positions. Supply lines were disrupted, command centers compromised, and morale fractured. The first phase of humanity's response had proven that even overwhelming force could not break a species whose strength lay in intelligence, innovation, and an unbreakable will. The woman diplomat, monitoring every development, knew that the Empire had underestimated the depth of human resolve. Each calculated maneuver had not only preserved life but also set the stage for the decisive counterstrike that would define the galaxy's understanding of Earth's might. In the aftermath, humanity prepared for what was to come. The Empire had unleashed its full power, yet humans had endured, adapted, and learned. Every fleet, every weapon, every strategy was refined for the next stage. The diplomat's message remained clear and unwavering. Survival was not enough, retaliation was inevitable, and the Empire would face consequences far beyond what they had imagined. The galaxy had witnessed a species pushed to the brink and responding with precision, courage, and ingenuity. Humanity had turned devastation into strategy, fear into fuel, and loss into determination. The Empire's counterattack had failed to crush the spirit of Earth. Instead, it had ignited it, preparing humans for a strike that would echo across the stars and prove that Earth was a force the galaxy could not ignore. The galaxy had never witnessed a force like this. Humanity, scarred, diminished, and yet unbroken, prepared to deliver the strike that would define its place among the stars. Every calculation, every maneuver, every secret weapon had been perfected over months of relentless effort. The woman diplomat, calm, resolute, and sharp as a blade, orchestrated the final plan with precision that bordered on brilliance. She understood that victory would not come from brute force alone. It would come from cunning, foresight, and the audacity to exploit the Empire's hubris. The billions who had survived, and the millions lost whose deaths fueled the determination, were counting on her, and she would not fail. Humanity's response would not merely be a retaliation, it would be a reckoning that would echo across galaxies for generations. Every element of the plan was executed with surgical accuracy. Cloaked vessels darted into positions previously considered unreachable, satellites transformed into precision weapons activated at the exact moment, and intelligence networks coordinated attacks across vast distances with near-perfect timing. Humans anticipated every move the Empire might make, countering and preempting before the aliens even realized what was happening. The Empire had relied on intimidation and overwhelming force, but it had not accounted for patience, strategy, and a species capable of turning tragedy into opportunity. The first wave of action hit not with chaos, but with calculated devastation, striking the heart of the Empire's command and supply chains in ways that left them scrambling, confused, and unprepared for the cunning of humanity. The woman diplomat watched as the Empire's most fortified fleets faltered under a combination of precision attacks and deception. Human ingenuity transformed environmental hazards into tactical advantages. Gravitational anomalies, asteroid belts, and orbital debris were weaponized against ships that had believed themselves untouchable. Cloaking technology rendered human ships invisible until the exact moment of impact, while advanced AI directed coordinated strikes that disabled critical systems before retaliation could begin. Every maneuver reinforced a singular message: humanity would not simply survive, humanity would dominate. The galaxy's most powerful species had assumed it could crush Earth, and now, faced with the unforeseen brilliance of its opponent, it began to crumble from within. Psychological strategy proved just as devastating as physical strikes. Broadcasts intercepted by the Empire's fleet carried not only encrypted tactical information but messages designed to demoralize, confuse, and disrupt. Humans had studied the Empire's culture, leadership hierarchy, and expectations, and they exploited every weakness with precision. Leaders found their fleets turning on them, officers hesitating at critical moments, and soldiers questioning commands as operations they believed foolproof failed inexplicably. The Empire's confidence shattered, replaced with doubt and panic, as humanity's relentless, intelligent retaliation demonstrated that the species they had once dismissed as insignificant could not only fight but outthink and outmaneuver them at every turn. Every pulse of energy, every cloaked maneuver, every precise strike reinforced the unshakable truth: humans were no longer prey, they were predators. Even as the Empire's fleets faltered, the woman diplomat coordinated further strikes with a level of foresight that made every human action feel inevitable. Critical leadership nodes were disrupted, flagship vessels neutralized, and communications between Imperial command centers severed simultaneously. The Empire struggled to regroup, but every move it made played directly into humanity's plan. Every countermeasure was anticipated, every retreat was planned. Humans had learned from every loss, every failure, and every act of devastation inflicted upon them. The revenge that had begun as a whisper across battle networks had grown into a symphony of precision and strategy, demonstrating that intellect, courage, and unwavering determination could level any imbalance of power. When the final wave of attack struck, the Empire's command core collapsed under human ingenuity. Massive fleets that had once symbolized invincibility were reduced to floating debris, crippled beyond repair. Infrastructure meant to maintain control across thousands of systems was severed, leaving the Empire in disarray. The galaxy had witnessed countless wars, but never a species rising from near annihilation to dismantle an empire with both intelligence and audacity. Humanity had turned the devastation inflicted upon it into a weapon more precise, more unstoppable, and more terrifying than anything the Empire had imagined. The woman diplomat, guiding every move, became the symbol of humanity's indomitable will, her name whispered across planets as the strategist who had turned the tide. And yet, victory did not lead to arrogance. Humanity, despite its power, acted with measured precision, ensuring survival, security, and future stability. The diplomat's broadcasts emphasized both triumph and responsibility. We have shown the galaxy what it means to underestimate humanity. We have avenged the fallen and protected the living. Yet our strength is not for conquest, but for preservation, for progress, for the demonstration that life, ingenuity, and courage cannot be crushed. Remember this day, for humanity rises from ashes to shape its destiny. Every survivor, every operative, every mind involved understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The Empire's arrogance had been met with human brilliance, and the lesson would be remembered across generations. Never underestimate Earth, never underestimate its people, and never ignore the cunning, courage, and indomitable spirit of humanity. By the end of the campaign, humanity stood resolute. The Empire, fractured and humbled, was forced to retreat, its influence waning, its leaders shaken. Earth, scarred and battered, had emerged victorious through intelligence, courage, and unyielding resolve. The woman diplomat, central to every decision and every maneuver, had proven that leadership combined with vision could turn tragedy into triumph. Humanity had not only survived a near-extinction event but had sent a message to the galaxy. We are clever, relentless, and unbreakable. The Empire's power, though immense, could not overcome the ingenuity, adaptability, and moral determination of a species that refused to bow. Humanity had struck back, and in doing so, reshaped the balance of power among the stars forever.